What's up, and welcome back to Sensical Politics, where common sense meets politics. I'm your host, Spencer Sembrat. Joining me tonight is
Tyler McDonald.
and
Jeremy Halt.
tonight we have a couple things we wanted to address. Just yesterday, we're going to talk about the shooting at YouTube's headquarters, kind of about the shooter and what happened there. We're going to talk about China's tariffs that they created after President Trump signed our tariffs into place. So, is there a trade war happening right there? We're going to be talking about Saudi Arabia's prince is going to recognize Israel as existing. So, that's a plus for all the pro Israel people out there. We're also going to be talking about Illinois raises their assault style weapon buying age to 21. Is that constitutional? Should that be allowed? So, let's get into it. Right off the bat, just yesterday, uh, at around like 2 p.m., someone walked into the YouTube headquarters and started shooting people. I believe there's 3 people injured, but the only casualty was the shooter herself this time. Did she shoot herself?
Yes, yeah, she committed suicide.
Okay, so she did kill herself. Okay. So it's kind of, we keep hearing about these shootings all the time. Interesting enough, the shooter's brother warned police whenever he knew that she was going towards the police. It was or going towards YouTube, because he said that she's not healthy and that they should look into that. And they failed to look into this. So, would you say this is another time the police fail to do their job, or would the police have any jurisdiction to actually, contain her when she hasn't done anything wrong yet? Jeremy, what would you say?
It's really it's hard to figure out what really like the problem here was, because this woman, this Iranian woman, had a vegan YouTube channel talking about those kinds of things, and the motives just seem so very strange. At first, they thought it was because of some kind of like boyfriend issue, because she ended up shooting her ex-boyfriend, and now it seems like it was some kind of YouTube demonetization kind of thing.
She was
So
mad YouTube was here. We actually have a video, just to kind of, so you can kind of get the feel of what her style of her channel was. So we'll just show that.
yeah,
real
show
quick,
that.
just so you can kind of see how weird she was. All right, that's enough of that.
Yeah, that's
As you can see, like, if you watch all the videos, she was a huge, vegan advocate. She would not like that people would eat animals, and as you can see in there, they have like they're showing the chicken and all that stuff. So it kind of shows she's a little. I mean, I'm not saying vegans are crazy, but she was a little more.
I am saying.
yeah, it seems, I'm not going to say all vegans, because I do know a couple, and they aren't crazy people, but some of the more vocal ones are typically very militant about it, and it's not okay. But that's not the issue at hand. The issue is that she had some deep-seated mental problem that I guess just escalated because of YouTube's crazy Nazi demonetization process that they have, whereas they're just dealing out demonetization to everyone.
Should the police should the police have done something whenever they were warned that she was going to YouTube to maybe create violence by her brother, or would it be under the police's power to contain her and question her when she technically hadn't done anything wrong yet? I know I asked you that, Tyler. What would you say?
I mean, my general opinion when it comes to this sort of stuff is to err on the side of less government force. And so it depends. I think it depends on how you look at the situation. Currently, with the current legal system, they should be allowed to do that, because if there is a threat, I mean, if there's like a bomb threat called in, or you do something, or someone like reports you to be threatening, then the police do have legal jurisdiction to arrest you. In an ideal world, though, I don't think the police should be able to do something like that, because it's a little bit.
So you're saying they should wait for her to do something actually wrong?
Yeah. Well, the reason why I say that is because imagine if I were to decide to report someone. just because I didn't like them and there wasn't actually a reason behind it. I feel like you give the government a bit too much power in the case of where before someone does anything, just the fact that someone said that they might do something, it sounds. It doesn't sound.
Too
It
powerful.
doesn't sound good to me. And
But
I
it
realize
is
that that's not exactly.
well because you're stuck if, like you said, if someone does something you don't like, you can just say, "Oh, I think they're going to go do this," and then they're arrested for something they haven't.
Well, yeah,
done.
that's the whole thing behind like swatting. People would say like, oh, they have a bomb, and then they'd go in and accidentally kill somebody because.
Right.
Yeah, and so I feel like it's kind of like there's pros and cons to both sides. I mean, as there always are, and I feel like most people, I definitely believe that most people would probably disagree with me and would say, no, the police should be able to do something if there's a reported threat, but it doesn't really matter if the people don't agree with me. I would just say that there are good things to both sides, right, and there are bad things to both sides. And the bad thing with the other side is that someone can report someone for not doing anything and then they get arrested before doing it. I mean, they'll probably get released and nothing will happen to them, but it's just an inconvenience.
Yeah, it's too powerful. Violates.
And then the cons with mine would kind of be, that someone might get away with more crime than if they had it.
Well, we have all the people on the left, and people that aren't as big advocates for the Second Amendment saying it's time for change. Would you say, Jeremy, that there is change we can do now, or is these shootings just a sad unintended consequence of having the Second Amendment, or is there something that we're not doing that we should be doing?
Well, it's not even a consequence of the Second Amendment. It's a consequence of living in a free society. There will always be these kinds of dangers due to the fact that police do not have infinite power. That's just how life will be. However, the things that we can focus on would be trying to find the root causes of these kinds of things. So, say mental health, trying to build better health programs and better identifying programs, so that way people speak out more and are able to see these problems better. And then another thing we have to fix is reaction. How well can our police force be able to react to these kinds of hair trigger things? If something happens, they need to be there immediately. And so we need to be able to have those kinds of resources in effect, so that way they're able to get to a location of interest, especially quickly. And I would encourage places like Google, especially private enterprises that can afford it, to have security, be able to hire police officers, and that would fix the school problem too. If they were able to hire police officers, actual on-duty ones that would be able to go in and patrol, so that way we wouldn't have to worry about response time as much. They would just be there.
So that would be a solution to have these private companies hire security. Like,
that would be
with you. Like, I think that would be good in schools as well.
That's part of the two-pronged solution. I already told you the one, which is identifying the problem. The other one is mitigating the problem, because we can't stop it. It's never going to be stopped. I mean, we just saw today that London has surpassed New York City in violent crime.
Really?
It won't even stop it if you have absurd gun laws like Britain does. Violence and death will continue to happen. So we just have to have these resources in place.
Yeah, like there's nothing else we can do, is what I mean.
Yeah, no, so I think there's nothing we can do, so give people the maximum amount of choice, I think, is the best option, personally.
Okay, yeah, I would agree with that. All right, moving on to the next thing. As we all know, I think a couple weeks ago, Trump created the tariffs on steel and a couple more industries as well. Shut up. But can you hear that?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. But just recently, China created their own tariffs on 106 U.S. products, including soy and cars and other chemicals. So kind of things that we rely on China, that we import into our country from China. Here's the headline from CNBC. I mean, this is just to kind of show it. But the trade war, essentially, that people are scared of, and that the stock market kind of is scared of as well, is that we're gonna go back and forth like this until one of our economies, suffers. Maybe not crashes, but suffers. So now we're supposedly supposed to raise our tariffs even higher, and then they're going to raise theirs even higher, and it's going to go back and forth like that. Do you think this is a good solution? I would say that I'm more for an economy that doesn't have any regulations on it at all. So I think if a industry is suffering right now, I think it's not the government's role to step in and save that industry. I think that's unwise and doesn't make sense in the sense of the economy either in the long run. Jeremy, we'll go to you again. Do you think a trade war is beneficial from our sense? Do you think we're stronger than China in the sense that they're going to give before we do, or do you think it's unwise?
Well, okay, there's a couple questions there. I think our economy definitely in the long run is stronger than China's. We have a lot more purchasing power individually and on a more wide scale. People in America just have more money in general. Our economy is much bigger. China has a lot more potential because they have so much more people, but their people aren't paid much, and their economy is comparatively small. So they would certainly give before that would be a problem for us. But the important thing is that there's already individual suffering. The stock market is already suffering here, and companies are already upset.
And we're going to be the ones paying the tariff on these cars that come in now. I mean, sure, you could buy. I mean, maybe now American cars are going to be just as expensive as the imported Chinese cars. But is that really a win for Americans having all their prices just more expensive?
Technically, the reason why we're going to be from I know that that's technically not economically speaking, that we are going to lose from our own tariffs. We're not going to lose from China's tariffs. We're going to lose from our own tariffs.
Well, I mean, if it costs more money to get Chinese cars, we're going to.
No, but okay, so from the economic theories, economists agree that tariffs are always bad. Is that they actually hurt the country that they're coming from, right? And there's a step-by-step process where you can go through and explain how it actually hurts the country, but just a brief overview. So it has to do with the fact that the people in that country that are now putting tariffs on everything, their actual value for the currency, number one, it goes down in the sense of from an overall scale, from an actual subjective view, it's not going to go down, but objectively it will go down, and then that in the long run causes them to have to pay more.
Because they're dollars
like that, and there's also a few other reasons. I read a book where they addressed it Friedman Hughes. I don't remember exactly what Milton Friedman. I don't know. It was by him, and he was talking about how tariffs actually only really hurt the country that they're coming from, because they wind up.
Would you say you're a fan of them, Jeremy? Since you think we're stronger than China?
No, because just like you guys, I don't necessarily believe that the government has this kind of power anymore. Tariffs were sort of an important issue way back whenever we had an agrarian economy as well as the industrial economy. We were a developing nation. The Industrial Revolution had begun, and so we needed to protect our fledgling business from Britain because Britain was so powerful and already well developed. But now that issue is long gone. Our economy is far different. Our economy is no longer agrarian. It's even past industrial. We're in a post-industrial society, really. So this tariff doesn't make any economic sense. It's a policy from antiquity. It is only going to hurt everyone involved.
And with Trump's base, that he's trying to protect American jobs. And
I was about to get to that. People think it does, but I like to use my dad as an example of the average sort of guy you would find in the Rust Belt, because my dad acts like that a lot. And right now he really despises Trump because all he's doing is hurting his investments, his IRA and all that kind of stuff. And it just doesn't look good if the stock market is going completely reverse from what it was whenever he implemented his tax plan. Then no one here sees anything good from it. And no industry is ever going to come back here anyways. Like Pittsburgh is developing in an entirely different way. Coal and steel are not a thing anymore.
Not relevant, yeah.
Not really. I mean, I just don't really support it.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I agree with everything Jeremy said. I would less economic, more government role. I would just say, I would even go as far as say, even if tariffs did help our country and we didn't suffer from them, I would say it still isn't the government's role to do that. Yeah, even if it made it better, but it's double worse because it doesn't make it better and it's not their role to do. Anyway, all right. Well, on a happier note, I guess we could go to Saudi Arabia prince. I'll just read the the headline from Daily Wire. This was interesting. Um, Saudi Arabia prince recognizes Israel's right to exist. I guess that's it. Oh no, I don't guess. That is a good thing that they have a right to exist. Um, I just thought that was kind of interesting to, to say. Anyone has anything to add?
Well, I mean, we can definitely talk about Saudi Arabia and how, they're important in the region, even though they really shouldn't be, and it's sort of World War I's fault. But I mean, we can talk about that
Saudi
stuff.
Arabia real quick. It doesn't have anything to do with Israel, but I just thought it was interesting that Saudi Arabia, they're huge in oil, if not the biggest country for oil. And I forget the name of the major oil company there.
OPEC? Oh,
I
no.
think it might be them, actually. Yeah.
British one, right? Yeah.
But they're a private company. They're not publicly owned or in any way. But they were thinking of their market cap is, I believe, like 10 trillion or something if they were to go public.
Really?
They're immensely big, and they were thinking about putting 2% of their company onto a publicly traded market. So they're trying to decide between the NASDAQ or Britain's or China's to decide, but it's just 2% of their company. So it would be, I don't know, what's 2% of 10 trillion?
A lot of money.
200 billion.
200 billion. So that's a 200 billion market cap, which I mean is pretty big. It's not the biggest in the NASDAQ, but it's pretty big. But they were also saying how even if you're a majority shares owner, you still have no say in their company or anything. That I think it's just they're trying to raise money, I don't know, for something. I just
isn't enough.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's not profit, but I just thought that was interesting. And so they're thinking about that, and if they do choose the NASDAQ, then that's going to be that's 200 billion back to the United States.
Do you mean the New York Stock Exchange?
New York, I mean, yeah. NASDAQ is everywhere, right?
Well, there's different meanings to NASDAQ. If I'm not
the New York
New
one.
York Stock
Yeah,
Exchange.
so American, so that'd be good. And they recognize Israel, so I guess that's a good thing. I don't see the logical way. I guess I'm not very informed of it, but the logical sense of why a country wouldn't acknowledge Israel's right, aside from ancient, I don't know, culture, I guess you could say. Like, if any can inform me why they weren't acknowledging Israel.
Well, so it's all about that sort of the way that everything the way geopolitics works in the Middle East. So it's all sort of, everyone's vying for control. It's between Iran and Saudi Arabia, basically. Iran being a revolutionary Islamic regime, and Saudi Arabia being a very, conservative Islamic regime. And so with these powers vying for control, with, Lebanon and Syria all in the middle of it, they all want more land. And with Israel being there, that's just less land. And with Israel, especially like Jerusalem and Tel Aviv being very like big economic sectors, as well as being very holy and religious, provides a very strong basis for, a casus belli for countries to try and get that land, especially under Arabian control of the Arab people. So that's really the reason why they wouldn't recognize Israel, is because if they don't recognize it,
Saudi Arabia?
What?
like, are there Palestinians in Saudi Arabia? Is that why they were conflicting, or is it just a threat?
No, because Palestinians are technically an Arab people. So they would believe at least that at some point having a Palestinian state would be more beneficial because then they could control more land by proxy or eventually have some kind of scheme to unite the entire Arabian Peninsula.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense. Well, even though I didn't know all that, I still recognize that as a pretty big win. And the last thing we're gonna get into. Oh, actually, there's one thing we could talk about. Uh, Mark Zuckerberg on April 11th, which is in less than he he's testifying before Congress for I believe it's what we talked about last week, Cambridge Analytica's infiltration, I guess you could say, legal infiltration of Facebook's data and targeting users with advertisements and stuff, which some people tie to Russia, yada yada yada, all that stuff. But would you, Tyler, say it's wise for Mark Zuckerberg to testify before Congress, and he has played with the idea that he wants DC to regulate his company to make sure things like the data mining and the targeted advertising can't happen again. Do you think it's wise for Mark Zuckerberg to consensually let Washington regulate him, or do you think that's kind of opening a door to infringing on business rights?
Well, I mean, it's not really. It's consensual in one sense, but it's also not consensual because if he really wanted regulation, then why can't he just regulate himself? And so my point with that being is I feel like it is sort of a bit of a publicity stunt on some level, just because if he did really want to regulate and he decided to regulate himself, I feel like the public wouldn't exactly trust Facebook just because at this point they don't really trust anything Mark Zuckerberg has to say.
Yeah.
So even if I feel like if he truly wanted to, he could just do it himself and get the regulations. Just regulate himself and don't worry about anyone else. But the moment,
so he doesn't really care about it. He just kind of wants to make it look like he does.
Hasn't Zuckerberg talked about like running for president at some point? And it's
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of I feel like this goes along with that narrative. I mean, I don't know if he's gonna run anymore, just because if he's ever gonna run again, or if he's ever gonna run, just because the whole game is gonna look be bad for him. But we'll see. And so I just think this is probably a ploy along those lines. And I would say that the government regulating any sort of website is not. Generally, the entire point of the internet is it's supposed to be kind of free, open share of ideas, and I don't think the government.
Also, while we're on the topic, Jeremy, I'll go right to you in a second. I believe it was Ben Shapiro. I heard him say normally for individuals suing these social media networks, like suing Facebook, PragerU is suing YouTube for censoring conservative views and stuff like that. Normally, I would be against them in that sense because I believe that the private companies have the right to choose what they want on their website or not. If they don't want to have PragerU's videos on their website, then they have full legal right to take them away. But Ben Shapiro actually made an interesting point, which I actually hadn't heard before. I don't know if it'll hold up in court, but I'm guessing it would since Ben Shapiro's a lawyer. But I don't know if that's a fallacy. But and his wife's a doctor. But he said, think of like the New York Times. So the New York Times has to specifically pick and license all the photos and stuff and all the text that they have on their website. They can't just go on Google Images, download a random picture, and put it on their website as their banner, because Getty Images or whoever owns that picture can then sue the New York Times because they're a publishing company. They're picking and choosing what they want on there, so they have to own all the rights to that. If Twitter now, and this was in relation to Steven Crowder got banned from Twitter for one of his videos for like 7 days or something like that. But Twitter has been legally hiding behind, which I've been supportive of, saying we're social media. We're going to just be the hosting platform, and anyone can upload whatever they want. That's what social media was originally. Like Tyler said, a free and open platform for sharing any ideas or anything. People upload thousands, if not millions, of unlicensed photos and videos to all of these social media networks. But you could never sue them for that, as in Getty Images could never sue Twitter, because it would be the individual that was responsible for that non-licensed image on Twitter, not Twitter, because Twitter isn't a publishing company like the New York Times. But now, whenever Twitter starts choosing what they want to be appearing on their website, they are now coming out from behind the we're just a hosting platform, and they become a publisher, because the publisher chooses what they want. If they don't want conservatives, then they're saying we don't want conservatives. But now, since they're publishers, that means they're able to pick and choose what they want on their website, which would, as Ben Shapiro said, hold them responsible for these unlicensed images, which I thought was an interesting take. So you couldn't sue YouTube for censoring conservative views, but you could sue YouTube for all these unlicensed videos and photos that now appear on their website. So I just thought that was an interesting take. So yeah, maybe PragerU could actually win. I don't think they will, but anyway. Jeremy, what's your take on that, or Mark Zuckerberg testifying?
Mark Zuckerberg is a lizard person, so it's not gonna really.
Enough said.
Yeah. Really enough said.
Picture of him. Look at those eyes.
There are pictures where like you see him like walking his dog, and his like knees are like inverted. It's like he doesn't know how to walk properly. It's very funny.
Walking.
All right, look. Look at that. Wait. Okay, yeah, go. Yeah, that one. Look, his knees are inverted while walking. He's literally attempting to mimic human walking.
It is kind of weird. And why is he walking like that? Why is jeans so?
He's got like triple jointed knees.
I don't know what this is.
Didn't,
All right, anyway, we're getting off topic. The final thing.
Hold on.
What?
Didn't the SpaceX dude, Elon Musk, didn't Elon Musk offer to like buy Facebook and just delete it?
Oh, that's funny.
Wait, he did? How much?
I don't know.
That would be so funny. There would be so many like middle-aged people, 45, 50, that would be mad. That would be so funny.
Elon Musk, he deleted Tesla's Facebook. I thought that was funny.
I saw that was funny.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's because someone dared him on Twitter.
Yeah. Someone's like, yeah, you won't, and then he's like, I didn't even know we had one. And then he contacted his guy who's like in charge of that, and it was deleted within like a couple hours. I don't know.
Elon Musk made a tweet on April Fool's saying, "Oh, Tesla's bankrupt," and then he came out and said April Fool's. But then a lot of people analyzed like his, the quarterly reports, and Tesla is kind of close to going bankrupt. So it's kind of funny. All right. Anyway, the last thing we wanted to say is, or talk about it rather, would be this. Illinois House passes measure to raise assault-style weapon buying age to 21. Also, fun fact, Merriam-Webster Dictionary changed the definition of assault rifle because of the Parkland. They changed it to something that would be used in military rather than the original definition, which doesn't really matter because who cares about what Merriam-Webster changes the definition of the words to, but I just thought that was funny. So some people would say that this Illinois, I guess, law can be classified under the same thing of individuals don't have a right to an extreme tool of war like a tank, as one goes to. So they're saying this assault-style weapons are an extreme tool of war, and they don't fall under the Second Amendment. Tyler, would you say that these do, or is this constitutional to pass this? Because it may not even pass because it's unconstitutional. Oh, it did pass? Oh, passes. Okay.
Wait,
well, no, it passes the House.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if it goes to a Illinois Supreme Court or the Supreme Court, but.
Well, I mean, it's not going to go to either unless it's contested.
Right. Well, it will be.
Probably.
Yeah, but do you think it's constitutional or no?
Well, I mean, the way that they worded it, it technically, I do like how they use the word minor to in the bill. If I'm not mistaken, they use the word minor to describe people under 21. I didn't realize that that's.
Oh, that's a minor now.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't realize that was because age of majority, if I'm not mistaken, is defined in the Constitution at the age of 18. That's why
when they picked it. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why those sorts of rights generally a lot. Like the right to bear arms.
I think it's perfectly fair to say that the age that you're able to fight in war is the age that you become an adult. If they really want to fight that 21 is when you become an adult, then they also need to change when you're able to enlist, because that would make more sense.
Yeah. So, but from a constitutional point, I don't think this is okay. I don't agree with the bill. I don't agree with this, but I don't think it would win if it were contested in a court.
You don't think it would pass constitutionally?
As in I think it would pass. As in I don't think it's unconstitutional. I don't agree with it, but I don't think it's unconstitutional. And my reasoning for that is because it's the same concept, like you said, with like tanks and weapons of war. Oh, geez, actually, wait, never mind. No, I do think it is unconstitutional because they're making, I guess, all those other bills were banning all citizens. So this is actually a form of discrimination, which is you're not allowed to discriminate based on that sort of stuff. Well,
they're discriminating based on age.
Yeah, I mean, a private company can, but if I'm not mistaken, public cannot. Especially I guess laws technically can, but after the age of majority, not really. And so I guess actually it kind of would be unconstitutional, and it would definitely be unconstitutional if it was every weapon. It was just because I don't know, and I also feel like it sets like a dangerous precedent. Not this one specifically, but if you were to, I know Florida was thinking about
trying to do it.
Yeah, doing something where it's like it bans all firearms for people under the age of 21. And I don't think that would be constitutional because it's like I think it sets like a dangerous precedent. It's like, all right, well, now you only earn your right to see. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like a lot of people also think that rights are like
given,
sort of earned things. But yeah, given and earned. But like they're not. They naturally exist. But what was I going to say? Yeah. So if Florida did that, that would definitely not be constitutional.
Banning all guns for everyone.
Because what you could say then is. All right, you don't get your Fourth Amendment until you're 21. Things like that. So I just feel like it sets a dangerous precedent. If you really wanted to ban all guns, I would say you would need to first have a constitutional amendment that overrides the Second Amendment, and then go from there.
Gotcha. Jeremy, anything? Sorry.
Well, yeah, I would agree with Tyler in saying it's setting a very dangerous and strange precedent because the only exception that we really have in law to which you can't do something past X age would be one, alcohol, and two, certain offices you can't hold until you're a certain age, like the presidency.
Those are constitutional rights, though.
Yeah, well, yes, those aren't constitutional rights, although any right that is not enumerated, you still have. That's the Ninth Amendment.
Right, it's a law.
Well, yeah, there's actual constitutional process that says you can't hold this office until this time. Those are in not only just in the U.S. Constitution, but in state constitutions and local constitutions. Like you can't be a councilman until you're 18. So it's just a strange age. You could pick any age out of a hat. 22, 24. I don't know what. I think people are just associating 21 with like, oh, well, now you're a real adult. You can drink. Even though that's not really the purpose of that.
Shooters have been under 21. Like this would solve anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Parkland one. Obviously, that's the obvious one, but I can't.
All these people are doing.
Would that have even assaulted? He still would have probably gotten the gun.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is, like, all these people are doing illegal things. Do people think murder isn't illegal, and people are just like, gunning down people for fun?
What? It's against the law.
We must fight this.
I'm done.
Let's contact the NRA to buy out the. Dad, the NRA wasn't targeting sitting House members in Illinois. They're flawed. Oh my God, the blood money for the kids.
It's just so ridiculous.
David Hogg, where are you?
It's just so ridiculous. People think laws just magically solve everything. The bureaucracy will just come on in and like, oh, everything's fine now. But that's not how it is.
All right. Well, we're out of time now. That was good topics. We'll have to look forward to Mark Zuckerberg and Congress. I know I'll be watching that on C-SPAN if I have time, just because I feel like Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, he's a genius in relation to founding one of the biggest companies ever, but he's like so cringy when he talks and stuff like that. So it'll be funny to watch him talk to, you know, and I guarantee you that since he's already kind of rolled over and taken it up the butt from Washington, they're gonna kind of be patting him on the back. No, thank you, thank you, thank you. And he's gonna be, yeah, yeah, yeah. You guys need to basically come in here and violate business rights, although it's consensual, so maybe not.
I don't agree with it being consensual.
Okay. Oh yeah. Like Tyler said, that's my opinion. But all right, that's all the time we have. Jeremy, anything to add?
Nothing. Just everyone stay safe and use guns correctly, and don't kill yourself because that's not good. It's just not. It won't solve anything. People love you. Trust me.
All right, that was a good last message. Thank you guys for joining, and we'll talk to you guys later.